Welcome to Arch's Garage. You guys like tools?
I like tools.
Yeah, I like tools too. I'm a big fan of tools. Always have been, probably always will. And I've got something for us today, fellas. Now, in this box here, which we'll open it up in a little bit. But let me tell you about what's going on. A company called GSTP, and they're mostly an automotive, store. They carry a lot of really cool stuff, and I'll leave all of the links and everything in the description. But it seems more recently they're offering some codes and discount codes and what have you, and trying to demonstrate and push their line of small engine tools. I'm always looking for a tool that we can use and that I can use that is within a budget. And I think it needs to be, before we even look at it, I need to put this in some frame of reference. And you take a look at the different tools that they have for automotive, and I'm involved in automotive as well, always have been, hopefully always will as well. And so it's something I want to look at in the future. But right now, with regard to small engines, I'm interested in things that can make my life, your life, a little bit easier. All right, fellas, I just went over a whole bunch of blades, 10 blades of varying widths, types, lengths, 21, 22, straight edge, compound, mulching style. I went through all of these, and they were all pretty beat, but they are recoverable blades, reconditionable, balance and everything. So I did all this so that you don't have to, so that I could actually spend about a day or so with this system sharpening up these blades, and so I can give you a real review. And I actually like the tool. Now, in this video, stay tuned, because you're going to want to, I would watch it. There's some things in here, there's some secret, sort of not so obvious settings that aren't really discussed in that simple cut sheet. When you get a little bit more involved in the tool and you can understand what this tool can offer you. I get a little frustrated in it, because it is frustrating if you've never worked with a tool like this before and you've never seen this version of the tool. There's an original variant of it. Like, there's some settings in here, some tweaks that you can get around that I don't see people talking about. There are some design flaws and some issues associated with doing something like that. If you're trying to make it something, some kind of a tool to kind of fit all these different needs, generally as an engineer and designer, you're going to run into some issues. Not to mention, if you want to make the tool a little bit more inexpensive, less expensive, then that's going to create a limitation as well. Something I also made to kind of help me out a little bit. Maybe it'll help you out. It's very simple. A little adapter I made to sort of get things going and make it a little bit easier. Now, I do a lot of different types of blades, so it's capable of doing it, but there are problems associated with that. You may not have that issue because you might just be looking to do maybe two different types of blades. Let's get started on the video. Assemble and use. It's kind of hard to see the pics, but you can kind of get an idea. I'll read these. No, we're not going to throw them out, but I can kind of see what they're doing. All right. Well, what do you think, fellas? Look, there's even a little bit of grease on that. Right down here. A little bit, tiny bit of grease. So we got our bolts. This is all for the setup, location of everything, and the final assembly. This is the mounting bracket, right? And it's a nice big piece of steel. All right, we're going to try and mount it. I might try and mount it outside. So you can see here, right? It looks pretty cool. Let me dial you in a little bit more. I got the camera set a little bit dark because there's shiny objects here. All right, let's get this out of the way. All right, just so you can see it a little bit better. Look at this nice handle. These are Loctited in. I guess that's where you locate the blade. It's got numbers on it. All right, for your degrees. All right, so this is a Craftsman, basically probably, I guess, a Black & Decker. And I'm using these flapper discs. We'll get a closer look at that in a minute. And then, of course, the M18. And I'm using the slightly smaller battery pack because this is a heavy tool. And, but I like the RPM. It's not as fast as this one. This one I tend to pulse the trigger. Now, I set them up with flapper discs because I like to clean the blades. And like on this one here, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put an older flapper disc behind. So it gives it a bit more support because these things are a little fragile. 40, 36 grit up to about 60 grit is what I like. And I sharpen the blades as well, but I like to clean the blades. And sometimes I'll start off with a wire wheel or something. And then I like to clean them up with this because I'm generally refurbishing things. I have a rack of good used blades. Why would you throw that out? There's hundreds and hundreds of dollars on that rack. All right, so I just put the clamp on and I put this bracket on, but we can't mount it this way because you can't clamp anything properly this way. So we need to move it, like we might be able to mount it like this, so just for demonstration purposes. And they also tell you, right, you may want to just clamp it right into your vise. So we're going to try that. Outside, I've got a better table for all of this. Oh, by the way, this blade does not fit in here. It does not tighten. So this, it doesn't work with this blade. So that's a problem right there. This is the most common blade out there today. And problem number one, right? So this blade is a little wider, right? This is your Toro blade. And that's a problem, fellas. And this may work. Okay, but this is a problem because this is one of the most common blades out there today. And unless I modify it, they tell you to choose a guide. Okay, and I chose one, just make sure it fits in there with the correct thread. And I just kind of gave it a little bit of a tightening for now with a pair of pliers, just to make sure. Now, that pin slides in here, and you have to set your angle. So you have, it says you have about 15 degrees, and that button is down here. Remember these things here. You're going to want to note where you like to set it. So this is a straight setup right now. This is the Toro blade, and we're just going to do it quick because I don't want to make a mess in here. It's suggesting that we move in the upward direction. Okay, make sure everything is tight. And actually, this is not too bad. So we're going to start about here. There we go. And here we go. Yeah, it's not bad. Now, it doesn't feel flimsy. Now, they say don't sharpen down. Well, I'll tell you. They're also saying on one model there is some micro adjustments here, but I don't think we have that model. This one won't fit in, but we might be able to make something for it that'll help it to lock in, and that's something that I'm going to have to figure out later. Let's grab this big blade and see if it fits. That should fit. We'll find out. Well, it's getting close. All right, the big blade fits in. It's nice and tight. This could be, maybe you'll have a little bit more lubrication on it. Yeah. I'm sure it'll wear in. Oh, where are we going? Here, going over here. Just a little bit. And a little bit on here too. It seems to have nylons on it, like nylon washers. So we should be okay. Yeah, that feels a bit better. Oh yeah. Yeah, just a little bit of lubricant is all it needed. Okay. So the standard angle, what I'm finding, and again, I'll get you in tighter tomorrow, but the standard angle up here is the same angle I used to sharpen this. And I didn't really fully sharpen it. I just wanted to show you quick while we're here. And we'll use the other camera as well. The camera can't see anything yet because I don't have it set up to look that far. But it is different. And let me show you. All right, let me swap to the other camera. You see? See how it cut nice here? All right, and basically that's sharp already. But here it's a different angle and it just grazed the top. So that's why they're saying you need to adjust the angle to that. So somewhere on here, you're going to want to make a notation. Now, I kind of like this angle. This seems to be pretty good. And that's an angle of 25 if I'm just measuring it over here where you can't see. So 25, might want to write this down, hold on, is 1. Yeah, that's totally different. Let's see if we can loosen it up. Now the thumb wheel is underneath here, which is nice. And that allows us to turn the blade. Oh yeah, that's better. So this looks like, and it's pretty quick adjustment. And what we're getting is about 40. All right, let's just do a quickie. And I kind of like the way it sets up on a bench like this. Like I can see it well, and at the right height, like most of my benches are 36 or 30 to 36. I kind of like this, right? All right, needs a little bit more. So it's got to cock. The blade's got to come this way, but that's pretty close. So basically it's all the way to the 45. Oh yeah. Now normally what I do, fellas, is I do something like this. I like to flatten all my blades first, at least a little bit. Which I can do that in the cleaning mode of everything. Now, I'd like to see a slightly steeper angle. There's still quite a bit step here, and I'm not getting that angle that I really want. It needs to be on more of a steeper angle. Just looking for some flexibility and just to see what the tool can do. Let's see if that helps us. Yeah, that gives us a little bit more of an angle. Oh yeah. That's real close. Still not what I want. It's still too shallow of an angle. Let me show you real quick what it looks like on the two cameras. Again, we'll finish these up after I clean them, but I do like the difference in angles. You can actually see it. But it's not sharp yet. Right, there's quite a bit of a flat there. I think it'll help tomorrow with natural light. See? It's not sharp yet, but there's a definite prominent step here and changes of angles, and you can really see it. I think it'll make a really nice, sharp blade. All right, change a couple of things. A nice thing is, well, fortunately, they give you a bunch of different sized pins. Just be careful with the threads. And again, I just just a quick tightening, right, with the plier. And I move the arm over to this side, okay? So now we can grab it like this, and the arm is not in your way. Not that it matters, but, you know, if you want. So right now the angle is set up for here, right, for the outer. You know, with my battery-operated Milwaukee, my M18, we could just, you know, bring everything outside, no cords. So I can do my cleaning, and then I can do my sharpening, unless you are more particular and you want a better pad, a newer pad, which then you'll have to, you know, swap everything. So maybe clean with a beat pad and then drop on a new pad. If you're really particular, again, this is probably more for people that are more particular, but I kind of like the idea of that, or dedicate a grinder. Now let's just see, with this thing on the opposite side, I'm just going to do this, this one here. Not bad. Now, I haven't treated these blades yet, so I haven't cleaned them. And this is a different blade, and I haven't done anything to them. Normally, like I said, I like to flatten them out and grind them a little bit. But yeah, it does. It's already starting to create a nice edge, and that's just very quick. And all this can be done very quickly. Now, another thing I noticed too is that this moves a little bit on this table. So you get a little bit of movement, but not much. It's really not a lot. And, you know, a quick wipe down of everything. I really like this. I think tomorrow is going to be interesting. I'll get a whole bunch of blades cleaned up, and we'll take it from there.
The next morning.
All right, fellas, before we go outside, just a couple of things I want to show you and something I came up with. Now, is there any advantage to mounting this over here on this side? I don't know, right? We could experiment with that, but I tried to look at the pictures, which are hard to see. They're very dark. In fact, I think the camera does a better job of picking it up than my own eyes, as I'm actually looking in the other monitor. So that's how, reading words, painful. The other thing is, remember, this is the blade that I said, that's the common MTD. It's found on almost all the new box store stuff. So I thought about it last night. I'm like, well, I don't want to modify the tool. And right now I've got it mounted in here. It's real solid. And you're thinking, well, what did you do, Arch? Well, let me show you. I just went over to, I keep little pieces of scrap everywhere. This could be a piece of aluminum, a piece of steel. In this case, it's just a piece of aluminum. And it looks like I raked off some of the right angle here, because it would have been this long. I must have just raked that off, which is nice. And so what is this? So for this blade, so this piece is about 2 inches from here to here. And then that is roughly 3/4 of an inch high. And it seems to be perfect because I just essentially lay it right like that. And then just open up the jaw. And I go about midway, right? You know, always try to keep the spindle area, the center line here, with roughly the center line of the tool. And I just gave it a tightening. And I think maybe the aluminum is better because it's got a little bit more give, right? You get a little bit more bite. I've thought of another way of maybe cutting a slot and allowing it to lay over here or over here. Would it be better if you flipped it around the other way? I don't know, but I just wanted to show you this might work as well. And one of the first ones we're gonna test is this one, because this is a good blade. It just needs a quick. Now, generally I would just do this with the grinder and I wouldn't be bothered. But like I said earlier, there are people that have written to me that are more particular. Now, another thing I did too was it comes with these nuts, these nuts. And so I threaded the nut on and just gave it a little tightening with a wrench. Same thing for this guy. Okay, and so I have 2 extra locating pins with associated nuts, I believe. I just put them back in the bag, throw that back in the box, and we'll just get another quick look. I'll do a little walk around of the tool itself, and we'll bring it outside, and I'm going to get set up outside. I want to go find a couple more blades, and we'll go through what I usually do, which is the routine of just kind of quickly cleaning the blades. I'll show you about a minute of that. Just a quick explanation as to me sort of cleaning some of these old blades. And even, like I said, they suggested it just to get them ready. And often I'll even paint them. I do a very light coat of paint because I tell in my ads, I usually say, I've refurbished blade, right? Balanced, sharpened, refurbished. Let's get to work. But step 1 is I like to kind of clean off the blades. And I'm going to do this in the vise just with the wire wheel real quick. And then also at the same time, we're going to use the grinder. You can see all the dust it makes, right? While it's here, there's rust and pimples all over this surface right here. So we want to make sure that's flat. So while I'm here, now I'll dress the front of the blades in a little bit, but while the mouth of the vise is wide, I'm going to go over all of these blades real fast, and I'll bring you back. The light's a little bit better out here. You can see there's still some nasties left there, but that side's really bad. Now, while I'm here, I can dress the back side of this edge. And that's it. And even, where the mounting surface is here, which is the opposite side, but this is where the washer's going to be, right? And then that's done, and then I'll come back, and normally what I would do is close the vise up, come back and flatten And then after it's flat and where I like it, and then I'll just grind it. With the vise like this, it's easier just to kind of, cruise over everything, and you're not going in and out with the vise. So I do each stage. All right, so as I run through these sequences, basically I've got all these different blades. They are different manufacturers, they're different types, and there are some slight differences in the angle. And I'm just going to experiment with the tool and show you, a little bit of clips and whatever of me sort of rolling through a whole bunch of blades, and a little bit of technique that I started to develop to get some smooth motion. Now, if I really flatten out a blade because it's all warped and weird, it's got wallowed out, I'm going to have to spend more time in the area that I flattened out. And you'll see I actually go back and forth. When I come backwards, I sort of take a little bit of the pressure off and then sort of lean into it going forward. And then I just kind of work it. And by the way, the nice thing about the battery operated grinder, the Milwaukee, is it spins a little slower than the corded electric. And you're less likely to blew out a blade. You don't want to do that. You'll overheat the edge and it'll be no good. So it seems that the Milwaukee in a lot of ways is actually better because it runs a little bit slower. I don't have to pulse the trigger, although the lock keeps getting in the way, which is a pain in the neck. I might want to take that lock off. But unless you really lay into the tip or something, then yeah, you're less likely to blew out a blade. All right, in these sequences here, what I'm showing is I'm struggling trying to get what I think is the correct angle for the blade edge, right? And it really is like 45 on most of these blades. And I want a steeper angle, which I'll explain more later on, but that's these sequences are really just me struggling to try to get that as I'm experiencing the tool for the first time, playing around with the angle adjuster and looking to see where I want to be. Now, it's nice to have adjustments. Things may vary a little bit for you, the size of the blade, the position you're in, the kind of tool you have, whatever, I don't know. But I'm not happy so far trying to get that. And later on, talk about how I solved that problem and how I go about doing it. And like I said, I'll get some close-ups for you later on when I can set the lighting up in the shop proper. All right, we'll use our bushing or adapter. Now again, we're using it this way. Let's try it this way. I don't know which way I like it better. I guess that's up to you. Oh my. That's finished. All right. We'll get, like I said, we'll get another close-up. But remember, I came from behind.
That's what she said.
Well, this is a difficult one. This one's been flattened quite a bit. And it is narrow. So might as well just, keep the adapter out. Now, I would still like to see this angle steeper. Can we do that? I think we're pretty much out all the way. Yeah, we're already out all the way. And how else could I do that? So this is tight. We could lift the blade this way, cock it on the screws a little. Yep, like that. And then retighten. And that might get me up to the angle I'm really looking for. Because I want just a little bit of a steeper angle. It's coming good, but still. I might want to pull these up a little bit more. And that might be something we want to do to get a micro adjustment. All right, let's see where we are. We're at a 1/2 inch. And we want to give it another 1/8, at least. Okay, in this sequence here, I'm going to try and make an adjustment to the tool itself to try to get the angle that I'm really looking for the sharpness, on the sharp end of the blade. And there'll be more on this a little bit later on towards the end of the video, or at the end of the video, I'm going to show you a little bit more close-up of what I did and what dimension I arrive at. And at this point, I'm still frustrated trying to get closer to that angle. But a little bit of adjustments to the tool. They do, in the instruction manual, they do call out some little adjusters that I guess some of these tools at one point may have had. Maybe the original one had, and that would have helped with this. But my tool does not have that, so I'm going about it a little bit differently. And then I want to bring it up. I want to kind of cock the blade a little bit. And then tighten it. So I'm lifting the blade up twisting it like this. And let me show you. Let me get the camera and I'll show you. You see where we are? Lawnmowers, man. Yeah, that's good. I think this one can come up just a little bit, but I want to check that. You see the gap in here. All right. Here we go. Let's try this. Yeah, that's a little bit better. That's closer to the angle I want, definitely. You know, again, lifting the blade up, giving it a good, you know, sort of a cocking it a little. Give it a good tightening. And like I said, if this, you know, we'll add a little bit more blue tide to that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's much better, fellas. Much better. Now be mindful too. Remember, when this wears, this surface here wears, be careful how you hold your tool. As it starts to round over and nose over, you're going to want to change your tool orientation of your grinder, okay? So be mindful of that. I guess that'll be a little bit of practice. Let's take a look. I kind of like this setting, so when I'm done and I clean off the tool, I'm going to put a little bit more Loctite in there. Oh yeah, this is nice, fellas. See, that's the correct angle. So essentially, I'm all the way to the stop on this, and as opposed to this one. And then I nudge it up a little bit more, and I just adjusted the tool a little. I think that's golden. All right, let me go do a couple more. Now, do I like it this way? Let's try it this way again. This way's better. As the blade is spinning, or the grinding blade, it's kind of pulling it up for you. So I think the answer to my question would be, which way do I like it? This way. All right, let me keep going. All right, atomic blade came out real nice. We'll do a couple of atomics. And like I said, we'll get you close up. Let me do another one real quick. Well, fellas, you can see the mess it makes. I'm going to blow this off. Wow. That's why I like to do it outside, between the rust and everything else. But, you know, come out here for a little while, get a whole bunch of different blades done, and just nice, accurate cuts. And again, I think we'll bring it inside, but just let me give you a look now. And I think that looks pretty good. Hopefully the lighting is good. I'll check it in a little bit. And here's one. Now right here, we're going to want to get a little bit, because that's a transition area, and wasn't that good at it yet. But yeah, we could touch that up. That looks pretty decent. And this is one of the ones that was really beat up, so I had to flatten one end down. And this one's a little bit better. But this was one where I wasn't happy with the angle until I made that modification. But it's still pretty good. Let's look at some more. We're going to give them a paint now. They're all clean and balanced. And this is one where I was practicing on long straight, but this one was kind of beat up. Nicks and stuff. Same thing here, but definitely better. Now that they're clean and I can see them, yeah, that one could use a little bit more of an edge. So I'm going to dress those by hand. This is before I really got that angle, because see, it's too shallow, right? So we're going to be working with that to tweak that. So this is one of the first ones we did before we really made too many adjustments. But remember, this is the MTD blade, and it looks real good. It cleaned it up nice. I'd say the angle is real close. All right, there's the lineup. 10 blades, 2 I threw out, so that was 12. There's one up there, the Honda. So they're all clean and balanced, and I checked them over. And then what I'll do now is I'll blow a little bit of cheap paint on them, just quick, a light coat, flip it. I don't care while it's wet. Flip it, quick blast on the other side, and I'm gonna leave it until tomorrow. When I get done later on and finish cleaning up, is I want to take a measurement on these, bring it up with a little bit more. I don't know, I'll decide then. And then when I get the measurement, I'll take one out and I'll put some blue Loctite in, drive it back in. Same thing with the other, because one of them's a little loose. Right, so that blue tight is not really holding. And these seem like they're okay. This seems fine on this end. It's this end, so to get the angle I'm looking for. All right, another little quick setup tip. Now, notice the blade alignment. You should be able to see it. What they want you to do is try to make the blade in line with the axis of the spindle of the grinder. So you can see mine's over to my right a little bit. And I kind of liked it like this. It actually helped me to walk the blade up. It kind of grabs the edge a little bit and walks it up. Now, if you want to adjust it, that's done over here. Let me see if I can loosen this up. Oh boy, I can't loosen it. This tool would not take it off, but this thing's not that powerful. Let's try my real impact. It just would not move it. Yeah, see? It was on there good. Okay, so this is where we have a problem. So when you back it out, the guard, right, is starting to hit. So that's a bit of a problem. So I'd have to move this guard. Now my other one doesn't have a guard. Yeah, see, now it moves over more appropriately. And we can bring it back to about there. That's about right. And I'll try this another time, but just to see. I wanted to show you fellas this. We'll just give it a snug. And it seems like it's okay. I'm looking to see if anything hits. Oh, we're all right. Yeah, that seems to be okay. And I'll give this a shot, but it's another little tweak to the tool you can make. And I think that's a good thing, right? I mean, you have some adjustability here. Everything seems to be moving good. This is now moving good. I didn't loosen these up. I don't think you need to. I just put a little lubricant. It'll wear in. You don't want to make it too loose because then it's going to wobble and you're not going to be consistent. All right, let me show you one of my last tweak down here one more time. I'll set the camera up for that. All right, one last look. All right, fellas. So the tweak, I moved these up and I settled in on 11/16. Okay. So as you can see, I took them out one at a time. I put some blue Loctite on. This is the stick Loctite. And then when I was done, I put a little bit of like liquid Loctite just on the bottom. I don't know if it's going to help, but just to lock it in. There's enough threads left to do this. And I just kind of did this. See? Just to measure it. I think this one could come in just a little bit. But it's close enough. And so essentially what it is that when I'm saying you're cocking the blade, now I have the adapter out, but when you're cocking the blade, you're lifting the blade up against this stop here. And I'm trying to turn it. So you want to kind of get it like I showed before. Lastly, the average, and I think I measured this and maybe said it, but this is about 2 inches across. All right, there's a lot of glare here. So some of the other blades that I did, they're about the same. They're about 2 inches, roughly thereabouts, plus or minus a little bit, and they don't fit in here. And that's the idea of the shoe. The shoe. And I'm just grabbing it like that, laying it in. Did I pull it out a little bit too much? Yeah. And this is where I would kind of lift it up. When I say cock the blade, lift it up against the screws. And once we tighten it, what's nice about these style screws or bolts is the way they're shaped. They actually help hold these blades. See? And so it's just raised up enough, and that gives me that little bit of extra angle. I'm going to leave that Loctite to dry. So that's important. So I looked at making this, removing material from here, and the things that I would have changed is I would have moved I would have moved the center line for this bolt. I would have moved it up here. And then you wouldn't need to remove any material. Well, it's too late now. I could make another one. So that would have solved the problem. So that might be the execution of the manufacturer, some weird design change. You could remove material from here, but that's going to make it real weak. And let me show you too. Now, you don't want to really remove material from it here because there's helicoils in there. So you wouldn't want to do that. You have a little bit you can remove. You need to remove at least 1/8 of an inch. And look, see, that's for another reason why. See this, you're right on the edge here. Now, the other thing that I thought about is if you take this off and turn it around the other way, hold on, which is something we need to try, okay, you can then, because it's an offset, you can then change the angle this way as well. And so now it gets nice and tight because it's offset. And if you still want to, no, excuse me, not angle, if you want to change, if you want it to get, you know, really jammed in here. So you can grab it in here, in this part, which is actually the seam of the separation in here. So you can grab it that way, and that'll change the angle slightly. It'll grab this smaller blade. And then the other thing is just lift it up a little bit, and then you can tighten it. See? And then if you want the more of an angle, because you can't get enough of an angle, you just loosen it a little bit and then give it its little tweak, right? See how I lifted it up? And now you can fit the narrow blade, all right? So that's important. But if you're in process like I'm doing, and you're going through all these different blades, you'd have to spin this off, turn this around, right? So it's up to you. So I think this is a nice add-on, because if you're doing like I was doing, a lot of wider blades as well as these narrow blades, rather than take the tool apart, just to finish up. Remember, I was using the tool the way it came to me. So let's pull this out. Let me go get one of my wider blades. Okay. So this is one of the older Craftsman's, and this would be similar to what you would find on like a cutting deck, right, for a tractor. And let's try this. So with the tool turned around, we should be able to tighten this. Although you got to watch out because, all right, so that fits. You got to watch out because it's actually cocking. Make sure it's fitting flush. So be mindful of the fact that if you look from behind, if you do it this way, the blade is actually falling into this little pocket, this little seam here, because there's not enough material on this part. So it's actually falling, it's getting wedged. It's not laying necessarily on this part here, you know, towards the front. It's kind of getting wedged in there. So that, just be mindful of that, but make sure, and this is something you have to get used to. And then again, if you want even more of an angle, then we lift the blade slightly, like I just did, and clamp it. So this is another way to deal with the issues with this tool. So I think those are acceptable between turning this around, or using this or whatever. You're going to have to make your own decision. I'm just showing you what you can do with the tool, the issues I see with it, ways of getting around it. I don't know what's intended originally from the manufacturer, what from the original designer of it, or from even this designer of it. I don't know. You could take this off. You could mount it in your vise, depending upon how you want to do this, right? You could have it straight up. I kind of like it on that angle. It feels better on an angle. So I think that's pretty cool. I like this angle's fine. If you have a vise like mine that can rotate a bunch of different directions, you can kind of get your own feel for it. That's all up to you. There's a lot you can do with a tool like this. And I think overall, I think it's pretty good. I'm happy with it. All right, fellas, one last thing just to clear everything up, okay, is when I was referring to the blade falling into the seam. Yeah, it would actually fall into this little seam area. As you're bringing that part down and locking the blade in, it falls in here. See? And then as you drop this in, it's getting caught. It's not getting pushed up against the screws or bolts. It's laying in here. It's getting caught. Now, is that a good thing, a bad thing? That'll give you a bit more of an angle, by the way. And the reason for that is because there's just in this direction, if we go in this direction, there's just not enough of a shoulder here, right, to really support the blade. The blade isn't really able to lay as you're doing your tightening and setup. It's not really able to lay like it does here. It lays nice and flat. No, it's tending to fall in. And so it's going to fall in, hitting these pins, and then you're going to have to lift it up. See, it's like falling into that. And then you're going to have to lift it up. So I just wanted to make that clear. There's not enough of a shoulder here. It is what it is. Just be mindful of that. All right. And then one last thing. These are all done to about 45. This is with my glasses on. Yeah, it's like 46 degrees, right? Depending upon whether or not the blade is flatter, how you lay this, right? If we lay it this way, okay, you'll see how flush that is. I'll try and hold it steady. I think that's another way to lay it. It's close, okay? What are you going to do? It's one more blade. You're going to make it exact. It's I'd say about 40 to 45. This one, I think, lays a little bit nicer, and I can see it when I look from the side, which I don't think you're going to be able to see it. I just don't have a way to get that camera angle. So somewhere in that range. Here is one of the first ones I did on the Honda, and you can actually see it. I know with the mark, if I put a marker on it, it might show up better because it's shiny. But I started this really shallow angle because I went all the way to the stop of the tool. And I was like, no, I finished it by hand, and then it's actually got kind of like a compound cut on it now. But I finished it by hand at a steeper angle because you'd be making the edge of that blade like whisper paper thin. So when I refer to the extents and the stops, okay, and the numbers here that they're trying to show you, all right, it's all the way to the extent here, and there's no more for it to go. So it's not quite hitting the 45. Right? If it went in a little bit more, it would hit the 45. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. This direction, it's not a problem, really. Now, when I watched the original guy do it, he did this where he did it quick, and he just went boom, stop to stop, stop to stop. And he had like 2 settings, and he just flipped the blade and gave it a tight, and he did it quick. Again, I don't know what to tell you on that. Could you put a stop in? I don't know. It's beyond the scope of this. We could fix that. I could chuck this up if I fix my cross slide vise, and we could take a little more material off, but that might weaken the tool. This would have to be wider, right, to achieve a better angle, and you may not want to do that, right? There's not a lot of purchase there. See it? Let me bend this down a bit more. Yeah, we could cut more, but then right here where all that strength is required, you'd screw the tool up. So I think, my little tweaks and fixes should help you fellas out. All right, I got to get out of here.
Final thoughts. Who is this tool for? Okay, so I went to the original designer's site, and what it looks like to me is that he's trying to develop an angle of about 30 to 35 degrees consistently. That's what he wants. And he's using a much wider blade, more of like a commercial blade. And then he thought for people like that, like himself, that wants a consistent angle, maybe they're not that comfortable with an angle grinder. Some people are using tools that are maybe too small for the job. You want something that you can get this done quickly and consistently. And so that's really who it's for. How do you subdivide that? I don't know. There's people like me that I just went through over 10 blades, and I do that consistently. And I like to refurbish these blades and put them out there. And I've got hundreds and hundreds of blades. If you're somebody who has a small shop and you're going to come across a lot of blades, maybe all at once or at the end of the year, you might accumulate a whole bunch of stuff. And and you offer discounts for certain things. You know, it really depends. I mean, for somebody like me, but then again, it's somebody like me is that I'm going to do the extra steps, take the time, read the cut sheet. I just spent as a review, I just spent almost an entire day between 2 days, and now I'm working on a video. So I spent a lot of time with this tool. And so I now have a feeling for it in and out, and I can do an honest review on it. If you're somebody like me, do you really want to make an adapter or make the tweaks? I mean, I think tweaks of a tool like this, that might be par for the course. I think even the original designer had some of that in mind. You have to ask yourself, like, is that what you want? Are you going to be just sharpening one or two types of blades in the equipment that you have? Yeah, that might be good. Set the tool up, see if it does the job for you. If you have to tweak it a little bit, if you have to make an adapter, and then you're done, you're going to consistently sharpen those blades. Even if you're a contractor, okay, you're going to have a very specific set of blades. But occasionally you may wind up replacing those blades, and you may find yourself with a deal on a different kind of a blade. And is this going to fit? Are you going to have to tweak it? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. All I can do is do a review like this and show you what I found. And who is it for? I really don't know what to say about that. It is definitely for somebody like me, and it is definitely for somebody that's willing to take the time and wants to create consistent angles. Usually I just do it with the angle grinder, right? You get good at it. I showed you one of the blades I did. You can tell me something's wrong with that. Now, lastly, 45 degrees is really what most of these blades seem to be. I don't know what 30, 35 is. I do see some variations. That's up to you. You want to argue that? I think if you're going to lay, if you look at the way the blade is, right, and the blade is flat, and then you're going to lay an angle that's not much more than the flatness of the blade, you're going to be removing an awful lot of material, and you're going to weaken the edge of that blade. The reason for a 45, one, it's a common angle. It's an easy angle to develop. But a steeper angle like that is going to provide better structure to the tip of the blade. As you lay back that blade angle, it might get a really good cut, but you're weakening the blade because you're making the whole front leading edge, some large percentage of that leading edge, paper thin on a swinging steel blade that's going to go over some pretty horrible ground with junk in it and rocks and pebbles and sticks. And the average consumer or customer or user, right, for somebody like me, who am I selling to? It's not just for my finely manicured lawn here. Yeah, right, Art. No, it's for the average person out there cutting, I don't know, they're trying to cut down tree stumps and stuff. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I see stuff come back. I don't know, fire me, all right? You know what? Dart, you're fired. We don't like what you're saying. Get out. I don't tell you. That's my thoughts, okay? If you're just going to be doing very wide blades, you'll probably drop that blade in, you'll be very happy. Would most people even notice that they're laying into their blade and removing all kinds of material to achieve an edge? Maybe they wouldn't, okay? Overall, I'd say for the price, now the original piece of equipment, American made, is a lot of money. It's like 3 times the price. Is it more capable? I don't know. I haven't reviewed one. If one of you guys has one, wants to buy one, let me know. Or buy me one and I'll review it, right? Or send me a recommendation to the original manufacturer and I'll do a review. Let me put it this way, right? If you look at the original equipment type of blade sharpener, which was designed, God, way back in the day, it sits on your bench. It's really expensive. It's very noisy. It's very dirty. And it doesn't sharpen compound edge blades, right? Just a straight blade. Well, most of my blades are not straight blades. That tool is very expensive. It will last a long time, but it's only going to be able to do some very small percentage of your blades. Why would you want that? Unless you got it from a shop for cheap. Use your angle grinder, right? I see people use all this other stuff. I mean, if the blade is mounted to the machine and there's all these other little tools that you want to reach in there and just give it a quick sharpening, that's cool, right? Maybe I'll review one of those. But for somebody like me or a small shop, this tool is really good, but then you have to tweak it. And I don't know what to tell you, fellas. I think that's the end of this video. And, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Help push this channel a little bit deeper into the algorithm. It really makes a difference. And for all the efforts and everything that we put in. I think for the price, the fact that I have to make something and do something to it, that's no big deal. If you watch my channel, you see I've modified my tractor. I made a lift table, right, that goes all the way up to about 36 inches from about 6 or 7 inches off the ground. I make I make all kinds of things and I adapt and tweak, and that is the nature of my beast, people like me. So if we're going to spend an awful lot less money on something to have a tool that is usable, and now I can put away in my kit and use it when I need it, I like it because I can add it to my arsenal of stuff. And there's a shot out there where I walked out there and I set up my extra bench grinder, and it's out there on the table. I got my wire wheel. I got my one or two grinders, whichever one I want, and basically and a nail on the wall. And I'm ready to go and refurbish a whole bunch of blades and get her done. Make all the mess outside I want, have a nice day outside, and when I come back in the shop, everything is all nice and clean. I have all these really nice blades, and it made my life a little bit easier and more consistent because you get tired and you get, drawn away, and a customer shows up and you get interrupted and a phone call and text messages. And this is a nice way to make consistently sharp blades and choose the angle you want, whatever you believe in. I'll see you guys later.